9 minutes to 8 then on Riverside Breakfast this Friday morning, 6th of September, and we've been covering the Grenfell Tower Inquiry which was released earlier on this week, and the Deputy Prime Minister says work is yet to start on around half of the buildings that require cladding removal following the Grenfell fire, but this doesn't include work on buildings less than 11 metres, meaning people living in them are not eligible for government support. So our news and political editor Cam Hall spoke to Kathryn, who owns a property in one of these buildings in Battersea. She began by telling us about her situation.
So I bought my flat in 2017. As it happens, while the legals were going through, Grenfell Tower had happened. I made inquiries and found out that the flat I was going to buy had cladding, but it wasn't the same type as Grenfell. The cladding type we have was deemed okay, and then subsequently it was deemed not okay. When all the bills and things started to come out, I erroneously thought my building was above 11 metres. It wasn't till later I found out it was sub 11 metres. It's really weird. I can't live in the flat and I can't sell it. I'm taxed on my rental income of 40%. I can't get a residential mortgage, and it counted as an asset. So when I had children, I couldn't get any benefits or anything because I had this big asset, but I couldn't sell the asset and I can't live in the asset. As for the 11 metre rule, I think my building is 10.5 metres. So for the sake of 50 centimetres, the government say they can't help us, yet the lenders and the freeholder thinks it does need remediation. Where there has been incompetence, negligence and potentially criminal activity and governmental failure, why should the sub 11 metre people be impacted? I have no idea of the financial amount that I'm going to be hit with, and it could well wipe me off the property ladder forever.
How do you feel?
I was quite traumatised because it's the only property I own, and the idea was I did a lot of research, I bought it in a good area, and I have 2 children now. My whole financial future was based on that, because the minute you stop owning a property and you start renting, your capital just depletes at an alarming rate, and then property prices are rising and it's hard to top up that capital, and then you risk coming off the property ladders.
What do you want to see now going forward?
Well, I think they should extend the help to all cladding impacted buildings. And if the freeholders and the lenders deem that remediation is required and the government thinks it doesn't, the government needs to extend their help to all leaseholders impacted by this. Because if my freeholder thinks it needs to be remediated and legally they can do that and pass the buck to the leaseholders, I am impacted. And a relative of mine said, well, why should taxpayers be hit by this? Well, unfortunately, taxpayers are hit by compensation for all kinds of things, and it is partly governmental failure and regulatory failure and negligence, and hopefully there'll be criminal actions against those culpable. This differential of 50 centimetres, why should my whole financial future and my ability to house my children in the house I own be totally wiped out by 50 centimetres?
Really interesting. Speaking to Kathryn there, lives in Battersea, in one of those buildings that won't be supported of getting rid of the cladding if they're at 11, only up to 11 metres. Meaning people living in them are not eligible for that government support. That with Cam Hall, our news editor. And now we've contacted the Department for Levelling Up, Communities and Local Government for a response. The previous government stated it was the risk to life is usually much lower in buildings under 11 metres in height, making costly remediation work, in their view, less likely. Well, a little bit later on, we're speaking to the Wandsworth and Merton London Assembly member Leonie Cooper about this, and Hina Bakari, who is the Liberal Democrat London Assembly member, who is the chair of the London Fire Authority. And so we'll be talking to them after 9 this morning about the Grenfell Tower Inquiry here on Riverside Breakfast.